Good evening and welcome to the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene discussion series. If this is your first time, welcome back. Good to see everybody shows up on time, even though I almost didn't make it. Heidi, gonna be late, hopefully not too late. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully you can be a part of it. Bijou, good to see you, my dear. First shot. Kitty Ninja. So, um, allegedly, there's a bunch of very irrelevant politicians that are gonna have like a like controlled mudslinging contest with each other. They're gonna call it the Republican debates. That's supposed to be going on right exactly now. So, if you would rather watch paint dry or that, just that's just a heads up in case you didn't know. I can't imagine why anyone would want to watch the irrelevant ass Republican primary debates from a bunch of irrelevant candidates that aren't going to win the nomination. But that's just me. How's everybody else doing tonight? Everyone good? You good? You good? Any questions, complaints, emotional outbursts? Any at all? Does it say Corona on it, Bijou? Or is it actual like a baseball hat, like a for a baseball team? It says good day on it, huh? Well, that's a good day. Speaking of good day, yeah. Speaking of this, half mile stoned. Tonight, tonight we're getting into Law 24. Well, see, that's funny because the one I got that says Corona on it, I got from the liquor store. Even though I don't drink Corona. I bought a refurbished laptop and it arrived today and is garbage, so I must return it. Oh, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate indeed. So yeah, halfway through the book tonight, guys. Yay! Who'd have ever thought when I first quit doing this after like 5 that we would ever make it another damn near 20? I'll tell you who didn't think it. It was me. I was not I was not sure I would ever see this point. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's daunting. We've got weeks and send it back to Amazon. Oh, that's even worse. Oh boy. Yeah, at the end of this show, we will be halfway done with this book, which I think is absolutely spectacular. However, we still have a whole half of the book to go. So there's that. Maddie, you finally managed to make it to a show I'm doing where I'm not doing any music. It's just Darth Hideous, his microphone, and a nice book, and his thoughts, and his squad, of whom Mr. Maddie is definitely a member. Can you return it at Kohl's? You think they have Kohl's where First Shot lives? He lives in Ohio. They got no Kohl's in Ohio. They probably don't even have J.C. Penney in Ohio. Free East Palestine. Does anybody remember East Palestine and what happened? Now they're only talking about the other Palestine, which is actually east of East Palestine. Figure that one out. But anyway, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. You can, if I don't know if you saw it in my description or if you happen to see my Twitter post, but Law 24 specifically. Uh, why is it not presenting? There it is. Dumb thing. Anyway, play the Perfect Courtier. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I read just the little summary that I use to actually remember what law I'm on when I make my thumbnails because I never like want to open the PDF all the way up and shit. So I read the little summary on this, and it was basically the vibe I got from it was how to be a good ass kisser, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is gonna be. I mean, I've seen people who are good at ass kissing. I understand the value of like why it would be a useful skill, but I am fucking terrible at this. This is gonna be like the worst thing ever. So pardon me if like being like a good, peaceful, personable person on like that's basically what it says is to like I don't know. I had trouble with a don't offend the wrong person law, same as I'm gonna have trouble with this one. They're both the same subset of laws is like learn how to politic, and every one of these that comes down to like actually having to interact with people and filter out my own like thoughts and feelings and statements and just be a good like wingman or subordinate. I struggle so remarkable because I'm not very good with authority and I'm not very good at being a subordinate. And Bijou cannot help me. That is why I love you guys because I'm an asshole and you tolerate me. You don't have to, but you do. Sorry, I was really busy before the stream started, and I didn't get a chance to like start this bong I was working on. So there's that. Shall we? I have no idea how long this is or what's going to go on here. Like I said, I just read the summary. So, Law 24: Play the Perfect Courtier. Judgment: The perfect courtier thrives in a world where everything revolves around power and political dexterity. See, I'm already I'm already falling behind. He has mastered the art of indirection. I might have to look that word up at some point. He flatters. No. He yields to superiors. No. And asserts power over others in the most oblique and graceful manner sometimes. Very sometimes. Learn and apply the laws of courtiership, and there will be no limit to how far you can rise in the court. Everyone taps out on Law 24? Is that what happens? Yeah, no, nobody's got any input. Like, I have a bunch of unhelpful assholes for friends. Uh, So let's just let's just get right into it because I got nothing for that judgment at all. Court society. It is a fact of human nature that the structure of a court society forms itself around power. In the past, I mean, that makes sense. Like, the king is the center of the court, or is supposed to be, whoever the ruler is, and then they have, like, their closest advisors, closest, and then their lower courts. And we read about this in another law. I can't remember exactly what number it was, but basically, like, that the law about, like, never isolating yourself, the fortresses law, that's what it was. And how about that one king just like had every member of his court living at court with him 24/7 so that he never like nobody could ever plot against him because like someone was always within earshot knowing exactly what was going on. Yeah, that's in the past the court gathered around the ruler and had many functions. Besides keeping the ruler amused, it was a way to solidify the hierarchy of royalty, nobility, and the upper classes, and to keep the nobility both subordinate and close to the ruler, which is what I just said, and literally was covered during the law regarding not building fortresses and isolating yourself. I think it was 16. It might have been 15. I don't have the whole list right in front of me at the moment. But I suppose I could have it if I wanted it, couldn't I? 18, yeah. So not that long ago. But the court serves power in many ways, but most of all, it glorifies the ruler, providing him with a microcosmic world that must struggle to please him. Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine like being that close to the king all the time when the king's got absolute power and can be prone to temperament? That sounds like a scary place to be. And it says right here, to be a courtier was a dangerous game. A 19th century Arab traveler to the court of Darfur, in which in what is now Sudan, reported that courtiers there had to do whatever the sultan did. If he were injured, they had to suffer the same injury. If he fell off his horse during a hunt, they fell too. This sounds like a terrible way to live. Just saying, like, mimicry like this appeared in courts all over the world. No! No, good God. More troublesome was the danger of displeasing the ruler. Yeah, yeah, because they have ultimate power. One wrong move spelled death or exile. No, that's not. If he swung, you would swing too. Hopefully not by the from the neck until death. The successful courtier had to walk a tightrope. See, this is where I fail. Pleasing, but not pleasing too much. Yeah, fuck you. Obeying, but somehow distinguishing himself from the others. Well, I'm gonna tell you the truth and not be an ass kisser. That's how I'm gonna distinguish myself and obey. But if you don't like that, you can kiss my ass, which I will not do in return for you. While also never distinguishing himself so far as to make the ruler insecure. Law number one. Never outshine the master. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about it. This sounds like a really shitty job. Great courtiers throughout history have mastered the science of manipulating people. They make the king feel more kingly. They make everyone else fear their power. They are magicians of appearance knowing that most things at court are judged by how they seem. Great courtiers are gracious and polite. Their aggression is veiled and indirect. See, that's kind of like they're deceitful. They practice. It said indirection, and I thought I had to look that up. But what they meant was misdirection. And most people you find in like a job, you can usually tell who the ambitious ones are, but it's the ones that keep their ambition very quiet, keep their head down. Those are the ones that end up excelling. The ones that are helpful but not overly helpful. They just continue going up and up and up. That's not a law, that's a suggestion. Masters of the word, they never say more than necessary. Law 4. Getting the most out of a compliment or hidden insult. They are magnets of pleasure. People want to be around them because they know how to please, yet they neither fawn nor humiliate themselves. Great courtiers become the king's favorites. Enjoying the benefits of that position, they often end up more powerful than the ruler, for they are wizards in the accumulation of influence. So while the king is busy being the king, the great courtier is off, like, getting all of the power. Uh, oh yeah, cheers. Thank you, Cat Ninja, for you're gonna start describing people as magnets of pleasure. I wouldn't do that. They might take that the wrong way. Just say it. Like, I'm not here to tell you your business, but so yeah, they're out making all types of influence behind the scenes, while the king largely has to live his view in the spotlight of everybody, which is how great courtiers probably go around developing so much, or yeah, developing so much influence that they become more powerful than the king. And this has been the case in a couple of the stories we've covered since we started this book. So it's not unheard of. Many today dismiss court life as a relic of the past, a historical curiosity. They reason, according to Machiavelli, as though heaven, the sun, the elements, and men had changed the order of their motions and power, and were different from what they were in ancient times. That's not true. I mean, you can see the hierarchy of the court. I mean, the royal court. You can see that same hierarchical structure in a great many things. Yeah, there's no king, but look at a corporation. You have like the owner or the CEO, the president, whoever the guy is in charge, and then he's got his court of like board members and advisors, and then he's got his upper management, and he's got his like different teams for the top, and then he's got his like middle management and the different people underneath that. Like, it's the same fucking structure as a royal court. The only difference is, like, the worst thing the CEO can do is fire you or dock you pay. They can't exile you or kill you. Sup, Castro? There may be no more Sun Kings, but there are still plenty of people who believe the sun revolves around them. Ain't that the fucking truth? Be Mousen Files, Small Mousen, not Bijou. Biju's already here. Small Mousen Files. Good to see you. Not all the outsiders are here. Oh, I was just complaining about people, because even though there are no more Sun Kings, there are still plenty of people who believe that the sun and the earth and everything revolves around them. That they're the center of the universe. The royal court may have more or less disappeared, or at least lost its power, but courts and courtiers still exist because power still exists. That's my point, and I use the allegory of a corporation. It's a court. If you look at a church, it's a court. I mean, you look at anything that's organized, there's always going to be someone at the front of it, and they're always going to have a court around them. Like anything. A sports team. Fuck out of here. Like, all the courts still exist. A courtier is rarely asked to fall off a horse anymore, but the laws that govern court politics are as timeless as the laws of power. There is much to be learned, then, from great courtiers past and present. Yes, there absolutely is. Because, like anything that's any sort of organization is going to be a pseudo court. Even like going to court. You have the judge who's like at the top, and then you got the lawyers, and then you got the people who are doing the court thing, and then you got the jury, and then you got all those fucking people in the audience gallery, the ooglers. Ugh. What does it say about the two dogs? Barbos, the faithful yard dog who served his master zealously, happens to see his old acquaintance Juju, the curly lapdog. My fucking surprise. Juju would be the curly lapdog. Seated at the window on a soft down cushion. Lazy bitch. I'm just kidding, Juju. I'm just pulling your leg. Sliding fondly up to her like a child to a parent, he all but weeps with emotion, and there, under the window, he whines, wags his tail, and bounds about. Oh, he's stuck outside. What sort of life do you lead now, Jojoka? Ever since the master took you into his mansion? You remember, no doubt, how we often used to suffer hunger out in the yard. What is your present service like? It would be a sin in me to murmur against my good fortune, answers Juju. My master cannot make enough of me. I live amidst riches and plenty, and I eat and drink off silver. Fucking spoiled hoe. No, spoiled hoe. I frolic with the master, and if I get tired, I take my ease on carpet or on a soft couch. And how do you get on? I, replies Barbos, letting his tail dangle like a whip and hanging his head. I live as I used to do. I suffer from cold and hunger, and here, while guarding my master's house, I have to sleep at the foot of the wall, and I get drenched in the rain. And if I bark at the wrong time, I am whipped. But how did you, Juju, who were so small and weak, get taken into favor while I jump out of my skin to no purpose. What is it you do? What is it you do? A pretty question to ask, replied Juju mockingly. I walk upon my hind legs. Hmm, interesting. I have. mm, Uh, I mean, I don't get the point. And like, I mean, because because Juju was entertaining. Juju could like get up and walk on her hind legs and dance. I had a dog that used to dance quite a bit. Like if you give him he'd do fucking a ballerina twirl. It was fucking hilarious. And not every dog I've ever seen can do this. I think because Juju is entertaining and that is pleasing to the master. Like Juju got to go inside and Barbo's kind of just like useless yard dog. Don't do anything worth bringing inside. Just do yard dog shit. Lives a shitty hard life. So he's not as pleasing to the court. I think that was the whole point of that fable. Oh, dear goodness. Are we gonna even like have a transgression of this law? Because unlike the rest of the laws, we are now having we've crossed over into the realm of uh, subchapters, I guess. The laws of court politics. Number one, avoid ostentation. It is never prudent to prattle on about yourself or to call too much attention to your actions. So please don't hit that like button. Please don't hit that subscribe button. Definitely don't share this out with a friend so that we draw any attention to these actions, because the more you talk about your deeds, the more suspicion you cause. You also stir up enough envy among your peers to induce treachery and backstabbing. Hmm, I think it's safe to dance. I think it is safe to dance. Be careful, ever so careful, in trumpeting your own achievements, and always talk less about yourself than about other people. Modesty is generally preferable, and as my mother used to tell me, nobody likes a braggart. Because I had a tendency of exceeding a lot of expectations. And this is me trumpeting. Treachery, like I was saying, Maddie, everything is a court. Even YouTube communities are a court in unto themselves. You've got the creators, and that basically like you got your big creators, and then you got your mid tier guys, and you got your little guys, and you got your tiny guys like all of our people, and then you got your guys who are completely under the radar like myself. And then you got the audience who they're not like, I mean, they're members, they're subjects of the kingdom, but they're not members of the court. And they are all similar to high school. Good evening, Inumers. We are talking about a law that I'm no good at. Welcome to the party. Okay, so avoiding ostentation, I'm not very good with that. Like, if y'all know, like, I I like to I am a victim of my own pride, and Sometimes I might get self-deprecating, but truth of the matter is, I think when I do things, I take doing them fairly seriously. Like, I don't do a lot of like back end production value for my show. Like, I see a lot of my friends have like, they have cool intro videos and cool layouts and cool uh visuals and shit. I don't much care by such trivial trappings, but I try to put forth a good solid argument when I'm actually like trying to explain the way I interpret this shit. And I take it pretty seriously. I mean, so when people tell me you did a good job, I like to hear that. Makes me feel good. If I tell you someone told me I did a good job or I thought I did a good job, that might be a little bit ostentatious of me. So fucking what? So anyway, I'm failing. I'm gonna get an X in the first law of court politics. Practice nonchalance. Never seem to be working too hard. Okay, here we go. Your talent must appear to flow naturally with an ease that makes people take you for a genius rather than a workaholic. Well, I would like to think, without invoking too much ostentation, that I don't do too much work for this, but I like to still think I do a good job. Naturally talented more so than a workaholic, that's for damn sure. I don't work all that hard at this. Call me a pretentious bastard if you want to. Even when something demands a lot of sweat, make it look effortless. People prefer to not see your blood and toil, which is another form of ostentation. See, I'm getting another red X. It is better for them to marvel at how gracefully you have achieved your accomplishment than to wonder why it took so much work. Yeah, right. Okay, so I don't have a whole lot more to add to that. Uh, be frugal with flattery. It may seem that your superiors cannot get enough flattery, but too much of even a good thing loses its value. It also stirs up suspicion among your peers. Learn to flatter indirectly by downplaying your own contribution, for example, to make your master look better. Oh, so yeah, shine that light, but don't blow too much smoke up someone's ass. Yeah, don't kiss too much ass, but kiss enough and do it the right way. Uh, Subtle flattery is a special art unto itself, and some people aren't very good at it. I have my moments where I can actually accomplish this one, mostly because I don't want to like over make someone feel insecure or embarrassed when I'm trying to compliment them. If I really mean like something super dope, then I'm gonna tell you. But if it was like, oh, that was really fucking good, I'm also not gonna blow smoke up your ass and tell you that either. So, uh, anyway, it is a wise thing to be polite. Consequently, it is a stupid thing to be rude. You're not nice. You're rude. To make enemies by unnecessary and willful incivility is just as insane a proceeding as to set your house on fire. I mean, somebody should tell all these little edgelording shitwits on the internet Yeah, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. You better hope that net neutrality shit don't go down and you don't get exposed. Uh, for politeness is like a counter, an avowedly false coin, with which it is foolish to be stingy. A sensible man will be generous in the use of it. Wax, a substance naturally hard and brittle, can be made soft by the application of a little warmth, so that it will take any shape you please. In the same way, by being polite and friendly, you can make people pliable and obliging, even though they are apt to be crabbed and malevolent. Hence, politeness is to human nature what warmth is to wax. Arthur Schopenhauer. And you've all heard the phrase, you catch more flies with a honey than you do with a vinegar. That is uh, that is applicable here. And it seems reasonable, like treat others the way you want to be treated. The world would be a much nicer place if we would all be a little more polite. The world would be a much better place if it had more Shiloh mania. What is up, my friend? But yeah, I mean, that's pretty fucking common sense. Nobody really likes an asshole who's just an asshole like all the time. No, nobody wants to deal with that shit. Like we all have bad days, but to walk around with a bad attitude all the time is to have not a whole hell of a lot of people you're going to be able to depend on in the court. Uh, arranged to be noticed. Okay, this is a fun one. There is a paradox. You cannot display yourself too brazenly, yet you must also get yourself noticed. In the court of Louis XIV, whoever the king decided to look at rose instantly in the court hierarchy. You stand no chance of rising if the ruler does not notice you in the swamp of courtiers. Swamp. Funny that they would use that task. This task requires much art. It is often initially a matter of being seen in the literal sense, like literally being there. Be present. You will find yourself much closer to the activities going on there if you're there. Duh. Ah, you gonna do a stream? Cool. Good luck with your fishes. Hope you don't fall asleep with the fishes. Just saying. Pay attention to your physical appearance then and find a way to create a subtly distinctive style and image. So don't be too flamboyant. Like don't be a gay, but be smooth. Huh. You sleeps with the fishes. I'm not surprised. Hmm. Alter your style and language according to the person you are dealing with. Okay, this one I also have problem with because you ever heard the phrase "read the room, know your audience"? I still can't. I mean, I can switch it a little bit. I can alter it here and there ever so subtly, but I can also be knocked right out of that. This is not what they're talking about in you. Like uh uh The pseudo belief in equality, the idea that talking and acting the same way with everyone, no matter what their rank, makes you somehow a paragon of civilization, is a terrible mistake. Yes, it is. And that is 100% sure. Uh, those below you will take it as a form of condescension, which it is. And those above you will be offended, although they may not admit it. You must change your style and your way of speaking to suit each person. This is not lying, it is acting. And acting is an art, not a gift from God. Learn the art. Hmm. Yeah, but I mean, what I think is actually being got at here is you wouldn't address, like, to throw it back to an actual, like, old court setting. Say you were a knight. You wouldn't address a page or a stable boy the same way you would address, like, a bishop or the king. You would use a lot more tact and respect when interacting with your superiors, and a lot more humility, and you would be not so condescending and more direct with people who are subordinate and or beneath you in the hierarchy. You would never treat the stable boy the same as you would treat the king. That would be a foolish fucking thing to do. Extremely foolish. Just like you wouldn't treat the mail clerk with the same respect and authority that you would treat the CEO of the company if you were working in middle management. Like, if you had to dish out authority, you're going to be authoritative. Hopefully you don't be rude and don't be an asshole. That was one of the other rules here, but at the same time, like, you're going to take more shit from the CEO because he's your boss. And you're not going to take a whole bunch of shit from the guy in the mailroom. You're his boss. Pecking order, basically. Respect the pecking order. Learn the art. This is also true for the great variety of cultures found in the modern court. Never assume that your criteria of behavior and judgment are universal. Absolutely that. Because everyone's going to have different behavior and judgments and values. There are not going to be any people that 100% agree with you. Not only is an inability to adapt to another culture the height of barbarism, it puts you at a disadvantage. So, yeah, that. We are playing at court, y'all. Never be the bearer of bad news. Oh boy. The king kills the messenger who brings bad news. This is a cliche, but there is truth to it. You must struggle and, if necessary, lie and cheat to be sure that the bearer of bad news falls on a colleague, never on you. Bring only good news, and your approach will gladden your master. So, if ever the question arises, do you want to tell him or should I? Never ask that question. Always make sure that the person you're about to ask it to understands that you want to tell them, not me. I 100% have nothing to do with this, and you're way better at these type of things than I am, and I'm suddenly really needing the restroom for the next 3 to 5 days. I will see you later. Good luck. Never affect friendliness and intimacy with your master. Ah, he does not want a friend for a subordinate. He wants a subordinate. Never approach him in an easy, friendly way, or act as if you are on the best of terms. That is his prerogative if he chooses to deal with you on this level. Assume a wary chumminess, otherwise err in the opposite direction and make the distance between you clear. In other words, you're there to do a fucking job. Be professional. You're not best buddies with your boss. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make fucking money. But also allies. But also money. I'm also here to do the job, not to pal around like we're homies. I have homies for that. Know what I'm saying? That's what this rule court is saying. And make the distance between you clear. Like, yeah, just don't. If you don't know like how good you are, don't act like you're that good. You're not, and that'll annoy somebody who like I didn't need a best buddy. I needed a guy to do the job, and since you just want to not take this shit seriously, I'm gonna find someone who is. So you're gonna get replaced. Never criticize those above you directly. This may seem obvious, but there are often times when some sort of criticism is necessary. Even though it says never, it just said often it's necessary. To say nothing or to give no advice would open you to risks of another sort. You must learn, however, to couch your advice and criticism as indirectly and politely as possible. Think twice or three times before deciding you have made them sufficiently cir- cir- uh, circuitous. Err on the side of subtlety and gentleness. Yeah. If you have to criticize the boss, don't be super blunt. Try to be as indirect as possible. You don't want to challenge their authority directly. That's not usually a really good tactic. It could actually lead to ruin a lot. Like I had to learn this one personally in the years of building this business with my mother, who is equal partner with me now, but wasn't always. Like there were often times where I knew a thing had to be done or a thing had to be done a certain way, and I had to learn how to explain that in a manner as to not challenge her authority. And sometimes, honestly, I just had to let her tell me exactly what she wanted done and then let her leave so I could do it my way. Because the way you want me to do this thing, it's not going to work out. But I will fix it. And so I did, oftentimes. In dealing with matters of personnel, oftentimes it's best to just ask a bunch of questions regarding the person that there is an issue with and allow the, like, and this is a thing I found just in general when dealing with people. Like, if you have an issue with the way someone is approaching something, If you can get them to explain it really, really well by asking the right series and sequence of questions, you can oftentimes lead them away from the way they were thinking without them ever knowing you were leading, just by asking and phrasing questions in a manner that leads them to thinking the way you do. Why not this though? Uh, never posture advice, but if you can ask them to explain it, it is just it. This is a really good way to win an argument without ever having to argue about anything. I know I've been bested in this argumentative strategy many times. Ah, be frugal in asking those above you for favors. This is definitely true. Nothing irritates a master more than having to reject someone's request. It stirs up guilt and resentment. Ask for favors as rarely as possible and know when to stop. Rather than making yourself the supplicant, it is always better to earn your favors so that the ruler bestows them willingly. Most important, do not ask for favors on another's behalf, least of all a friend's. Do not let your friends get you fucked over in the game. Do not let anyone else. Like those favors that you have a very limited number of, don't give those fucks out to other people. Even though it may seem like you want to at the time, it will be costly in the long run. And if they can get you to do the asking on their behalf, they will come to depend on that very quickly because that worked out very easily for them. They got to reap the reward without fucking facing any of the risk of asking. So yeah, don't be that guy who asks for favors for other people ever. Did never do that. Never joke about appearances or taste. In other words, don't roast somebody. A lively wit and humorous disposition are essential qualities for a good courtier, and there are times when vulgarity is appropriate and engaging, but avoid any kind of joke about appearance or taste. Two highly sensitive areas, especially with those above you. Do not even try it when you are away from them. So do not even joke about them behind their back to others, because that shit gets back to people. You will dig your own grave. Yeah. Never insult a man's hair or his watch. Oh wait, that's women. Oh wait, never mind. That's pretty much everybody. Like, especially somebody who prides themselves or has a level of air about them that, yeah, a lot of this should be common sense. A lot of it should, but you've seen society these days, maybe not too up close and personal, but there's plenty of documentation that the average people don't seem to get a lot of these fucking basic rules of just like, I don't know, not being a shit weasel. Or maybe I just spend too much time on the internet and I'm too plugged into a microcosm of the world. Do not be the court cynic. I struggle with this one too. Express admiration for the good work of others. If you constantly criticize your equals or subordinates, some of that criticism will rub off on you, hovering over you like a gray cloud wherever you go. People will groan at each new cynical comment, and you will irritate them. By expressing modest admiration for other people's achievements, you paradoxically call attention to your own. The ability to express wonder and amazement and seem like you mean it is a rare and dying talent, but one still greatly valued. Oh man. Imagine having to seem like you mean it though. Because I can tell you just how fucking awesome that is, but God, I have to mean it? Shit. Be self-observant. The mirror. Oh my goodness. The self-awareness. This is one thing I actually like to think I do fairly well, even though it doesn't seem like it because I don't fix anything about me. That's because I haven't. I mean, if it's a broken thing, I'm working on fixing it. I have a problem with it too. Oh yeah, I mean, not like them at all, but the mirror is a miraculous invention. Ah, my goodness. Without it, you would commit great sins against beauty and decorum. You also need a mirror for your actions. This can sometimes come from other people telling you what they see in you, but that is not the most trustworthy method. You must be the mirror, training your mind to try to see yourself as others see you. And that is a challenge because a lot of us have images of ourselves that whether they be overly boisterous or overly critical, it is really, really hard to let go of our own self-image and see ourselves as others see us. Not see yourself as your best self or any of that stupid bullshit, but see yourself as you are to everyone else. That's difficult, let me tell you. Are you acting too obsequious? Are you trying too hard to please? Do you seem desperate for attention, giving the impression that you are on the decline? Be observant about yourself, and you will avoid a mountain of blunders. Even the most observant, self aware people still blunder in this regard. Master your emotions. As an actor in a great play, you must learn to cry and laugh on command and when it is appropriate. You must be able you must be able both to disguise your anger and frustration and to fake contentment and agreement. You must be the master of your own face. Huh, I was talking to somebody earlier about fixing your fucking face so you don't betray yourself, so you don't snitch on yourself, because a lot of the shit you say will be betrayed if you can't fix the emotion on your face. Call it lying if you like, but if you prefer to not play the game and to always be honest and upfront, do not complain when others call you obnoxious, arrogant, and Darth hideous. Yeah. Fit the spirit of the times. A slight affectation of a past era can be charming, as long as you choose a period at least 20 years back. Wearing the fashions of 10 years ago is ludicrous. Unless you enjoy the role of court jester, your spirit and way of thinking must keep up with the times, even if the times offend your sensibilities. So I guess that means, like, for those of you who had to live through the style, just nightmare that was the 80s, it would have been really cool to rock fashions as long as you're rocking 60s fashions. Rocking 70s fashions, no good. Hopefully, you all just kept the 60s fashions going because Court jester like a rodeo clown. Not to be confused with like a DC clown. Be too forward thinking, however, and no one will understand you. So you got to live in the moment. Don't be too off in the future. Don't be too stuck in the past. It is never a good idea to stand out too much in this area. You are best off at least being able to mimic the spirit of the times. So, for whatever that's worth to you. Oh. Be a source of pleasure. This is critical. It is an obvious law of human nature that we will flee what is unpleasant and distasteful. You're damn right. While charm and the promise of delight will draw us like moths to a flame. Imagine that. Make yourself the flame and you will rise to the top. This is one of those ones that should be pretty fucking obvious. Don't be a dick, but be a source of pleasure. Since life is otherwise so full of unpleasantness and pleasure so scarce, you will be as indispensable as food and drink. This may seem obvious, because duh, but what is obvious is often ignored or unappreciated. There are degrees to this. Not everyone can play the role of favorite, for not everyone is blessed with charm and wit. But we can all control our unpleasant qualities and obscure them when necessary, unless we've been drinking. I'm just saying. A man who knows the court is master of his gestures, of his eyes, and of his face. Fix your stupid face. He is profound, impenetrable. He dissimulates bad offices, smiles at his enemies, controls his irritation, disguises his passions, belies his heart, speaks and acts against his feelings. Jean de la Bruyere. My, there are more sub chapters. Oh my goodness. Do y'all see this? There is literally. Okay. There's no fucking way in hell I'm doing all of this tonight. Wow, this might be. Wow, this might be a three-parter, guys. Holy crap, there's a lot going. There are 10, 11 scenes here and interpretations on all of them. Jesus. Did anybody expect this? Oh, that is such a whole hell of a lot. Oh, I'm gonna have to put it to a vote to you guys. Do you want to just cut it at scenes of court life and pick this one up again next time? I mean, I said bring snacks because I thought I wouldn't be able to explain the concepts here. I didn't realize that I would have to be explaining all these concepts in 500 pages. Like, this is the longest chapter I think I've seen so far by a lot. And we just did that other one the other day that took 2 hours. If you guys want to keep going, I suppose I can keep plucking away at it, but we're looking at something in the neighborhood of maybe 3 hours. Uh, I let me know. There's so much more chapter left here. We are an hour in. There's probably at least 2 hours left to go. I can do it. I've done longer streams. Maddie got out the scissors. I think that means cut it. Oh, well, that's the thing is, uh, I've got 24 more laws. Oh, well, never mind. That changes everything. Uh, the poll has been canceled. Heidi has arrived. She is late, but she is not too late. So we're going to continue because Heidi says, "I just got here. I vote to keep plucking." So that's what we are going to do. I will press on. Heidi, there is a whole hour of explaining the values of being a good courtier. Yeah, see, Juju has to go play D&D. Mousy had to go do a stream. Like pretty much everybody. But I will keep pressing on. I probably won't finish the whole thing tonight, so it probably still will need to be 2 parts. But I can go for a little while longer, and if I can get through enough of it, maybe I'll just push through it all right now. Yeah, it'll go faster than I think it always does. You're right. I'll try not to interrupt the stories too much with my little commentaries and save my commentaries more for the end to see if the stories themselves don't explain the things that I'm going to do commentary on. Scenes of court life, exemplary deeds and fatal mistakes. Scene 1. Alexander the Great, conqueror of the Mediterranean basin and the Middle East through to India, had the great Aristotle as his tutor and mentor, and throughout his short life he remained devoted to philosophy and his master's teachings. He once complained to Aristotle that during his long campaigns he had no one with whom he could discuss philosophical matters. Aristotle responded by suggesting that he take Callisthenes, a former pupil of Aristotle's and a promising philosopher in his own right, along on the next campaign. Aristotle had schooled Callisthenes in the skills of being a courtier, but the young man secretly scoffed at them. He believed in pure philosophy, in unadorned words, in speaking the naked truth. If Alexander loved learning so much, Callisthenes thought, he could not object to one who spoke his mind. During one of Alexander's major campaigns, Callisthenes spoke his mind one too many times, and Alexander had him put to death. In court, honesty is a fool's game. Never be so self-absorbed as to believe that the master is interested in your criticisms of him, no matter how accurate they are. So, at least in scene 1, the scene and the interpretation were covered in the exact same paragraph. But this one's pretty obvious. Like, when you're dealing with someone that's got that much power, choose your words wisely and keep them sweet, lest you have to eat them later. Scene 2. Beginning in the Han Dynasty 2,000 years ago, Chinese scholars compiled a series of writing called the 21 Histories, an official biography of each dynasty, including stories, statistics, census figures, and war chronicles. Each history also contained a chapter called Unusual Events, and here, among the listings of earthquakes and floods, There would sometimes suddenly appear descriptions of such bizarre manifestations as two-headed sheep, geese flying backward, stars suddenly appearing in different parts of the sky, and so on. The earthquakes could be historically verified, but the monsters and weird natural phenomena were clearly inserted on purpose and invariably occurred in clusters. What could this mean? What could that mean? Some weird shit? The Chinese emperor was considered more than a man. He was a force of nature. His kingdom was the center of the universe and everything revolved around him. He embodied the world's perfection. To criticize him or any of his actions would have been to criticize the divine order. Holy shit. This guy isn't even remotely arrogant at all. No minister or courtier dared approach the emperor with even the slightest cautionary word. But emperors were fallible, and the kingdom suffered greatly by their mistakes. Inserting sightings of strange phenomena into the court chronicles was the only way to warn them. The emperor would read of geese flying backwards and moons out of orbit and realize that he was being cautioned. His actions were unbalancing the universe and needed to change. What the? Okay, this is silly. So, without trying to understand it too much, there's an interpretation here, and hopefully we'll be able to understand like why this is a thing. For Chinese courtiers, the problem of how to give the emperor advice was an important issue. Over the years, thousands of them had died trying to warn or counsel their master. To be made safely, their criticisms had to be indirect. Yet if they were too indirect, they would not be heeded. The chronicles were their solution. Identify no one person as the source of criticism. Make the advice as impersonal as possible, but let the emperor know the gravity of the situation. So this is kind of like prophecy in the Bible. Your master is no longer the center of the universe, but he still imagines that everything revolves around him. When you criticize him, he sees the person criticizing, not the criticism itself. Aha. Like the Chinese courtiers, you must find a way to disappear behind the warning. Use symbols and other indirect methods to paint a picture of the problems to come without putting your neck on the line. Yeah, does sound kind of a little bit like me. Because I mean, these roads only lead to one place, the scene of the crash. I'm just saying. I criticize people in power all the time. I do so directly and indirectly, but this definitely couldn't blow up in our face. Nope. I don't see any problem with this. Scene 3. In his early career, the French architect Jules Mansart received commissions to design minor additions to Versailles for King Louis XIV. For each design, he would draw up his plans, making sure they followed Louis's instructions closely. He would then present them to His Majesty. The courtier Saint Simon described Mansart's technique in dealing with the king. His particular skill was to show the king plans that purposely included something imperfect about them, often dealing with the gardens, which were not Mansart's specialty. The king, as Mansart expected, would put his finger exactly on the problem and propose how to solve it. So he was inventing problems for the king to solve, at which point Mansart would explain for all to hear that he would never have seen the problem that he created, that the king had so masterfully found and solved, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and he would burst with admiration, confessing that next to the king he was but a lowly pupil. Ah, ha, 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 ha. At the age of 30, having used these methods time and time again, Mansart received a prestigious royal commission. Although he was less talented and experienced than a number of other French designers, he was to take charge of the enlargement of Versailles. He was the king's architect from then on. There's the king's butt-kissing architect. Interpretation. As a young man, Mansart had seen how many royal craftsmen in the service of Louis XIV had lost their positions not through a lack of talent, but through a costly social blunder. He would not make that mistake. Mansart always strove to make Louis feel better about himself, to feed the king's vanity as publicly as possible. Never imagine that skill and talent are all that matter. In court, the courtier's art is more important than his talent. Never spend so much time on your studies that you neglect your social skills. And the greatest skill of all is the ability to make the master look more talented than those around him. This goes back to law number one. Never outshine the master. Always make them look better than they are. Cheers again. God, this is a log. Scene 4, we're getting there. Jean-Baptiste Isabey had become the unofficial painter of the Napoleonic court. During the Congress of Vienna in 1814, after Napoleon, defeated, had been imprisoned on the island of Elba, the participants in these meetings, which were to decide the fate of Europe, invited Isabey to immortalize the historic event in an epic painting. When Isabey arrived in Vienna, Talleyrand, the main negotiator for the French, paid the artist a visit. Considering his role in the proceedings, the statesman explained, he expected to occupy center stage in the painting. Isabey cordially agreed. A few days later, the Duke of Wellington, the main negotiator for the English, also approached Isabey and said much the same thing that Talleyrand had. The ever polite Isabey agreed that the great Duke should indeed be the center of attention. Oh boy. Uh, this isn't going well. Back in his studio, Isabey pondered the dilemma. If he gave the spotlight to either of the two men, he could create a diplomatic rift, stirring up all sorts of resentment at a time when peace and concord were critical. When the painting was finally unveiled, however, both Talleyrand and Wellington felt honored and satisfied. The work depicts a large hall filled with diplomats and politicians from all over Europe. On why the Duke of Wellington enters the room and all eyes are turned towards him. He is the center of attention. At the very center of the painting, meanwhile, sits Talleyrand. Ah, clever girl. Clever girl indeed. Interpretation. It is often very difficult to satisfy the master, but to satisfy two masters in one stroke takes the genius of a great courtier. Such predicaments are common in the life of a courtier. By giving attention to one master, he displeases another. You must find a way to navigate this Scylla and Charybdis safely. Masters must receive their due, never inadvertently stir up the resentment of one in pleasing another. So learn how to kiss many asses and uh, watch, watch many backs. Scene 5. George Brummel, also known as Beau Brummel, made his mark in the late 1700s by the supreme elegance of his appearance. His popularization of shoe buckles, soon imitated by all the dandies, and his very clever way with words. His London house was the fashionable spot in town, and Brummel was the authority on all matters of fashion. If he disliked your footwear, you immediately got rid of it and bought whatever he was wearing. He perfected the art of tying a cravat. Lord Byron was said to spend many a night in front of the mirror trying to figure out the secret behind Brummel's perfect knots. A cravat's a tie, right? I'm not British. Scylla and Charybdis, like wrapped around. Uh, Thank you, Maddie. I These are stupid words. Nobody uses this shit. At least not in current century. One of Brummel's greatest admirers was the Prince of Wales, who fancied himself a fashionable young man. Becoming attached to the prince's court and provided with a royal pension, Brummel was soon so sure of his own authority that he took to joking about the prince's weight, referring to his host as Big Ben. Since trimness of figure was an important quality for a dandy, this was a withering criticism. At dinner once, when the service was slow, Brummel said to the prince, "Do ring, Big Ben." The prince rang, but when the valet arrived, he ordered the man to show Brummel the door and never admit him again. Oh, you got thrown the fuck out. Despite falling into the prince's disfavor, Brummel continued to treat everyone around him with the same arrogance. Without the Prince of Wales' patronage to support him, he sank into horrible debt, but he maintained his insolent manners, and everyone soon abandoned him. He died in the most pitiable poverty, alone and deranged. That hits oddly close to home. Interpretation. Beau Brummel's devastating wit was one of the qualities that endeared him to the Prince of Wales, but not even he, the arbiter of taste and fashion, could get away with a joke about the prince's appearance, least of all to his face. Never joke about a person's plumpness. Uh, make fat jokes. I'm try not to make fat jokes about your boss, even indirectly, and particularly when he is your master. Make fat jokes. Fuck that. These fat people have gotten out of control. The poorhouses of history are filled with people who have made such jokes at their master's expense. Do it anyway. It's funny. Fuck you if you don't like it. Pope Urban the Eighth. Urban. This is a hip hop pope. Does this guy got a gold chains? Wanted to be remembered for his skills in writing poetry. See, I told you it was a hip hop. That's why they called it urban. Unfortunately, we're mediocre at best. In 1629, Duke Francesco d'Este, knowing the Pope's literary pretensions, sent the poet Fulvio Testi as an ambassador to the Vatican. One of Testi's letters to the Duke reveals why he was chosen. Once our discussion was over, I kneeled to depart, but His Holiness made a signal and walked to another room where he sleeps, and after reaching a small table, he grabbed a bundle of papers and thus, turning to me with a smiling face, he said, "We want your lordship to listen to some of our compositions." And in fact, he read me two very long Pindaric poems, one in praise of the Most Holy Virgin, and the other one about Countess Matilda. We do not know exactly what Testi thought of these very long poems, since it would have been dangerous for him to state his opinion freely, even in a letter. But he went on to write, I, following the mood, commented on each line with the needed praise, and, after having kissed His High Holiness's foot for such an unusual sign of benevolence, the reading of the poetry, I left. Weeks later, when the Duke himself visited the Pope, he managed to recite entire verses of the Pope's poetry and praised it enough to make the Pope so jubilant he seemed to lose his mind. So they kissing the Pope's ass. That's why the Pope got a big. Yeah, Vatican MC the Pope. There you go. Urban the Eighth, bitch. Nah. Interpretation. In matters of taste, you can never be too obsequious with your master. Taste is one of the ego's prickliest parts. Never impugn or question the master's taste. His poetry is sublime, his dress impeccable, and his manner the model for all. You're damn right, and don't you forget it. I think it's a piece of a song. I Scylla and Charybdis. I I'm not familiar with the phrase, and I think I mispronounced it. Okay, we are actually pounding through these. Like you said, Heidi, quicker than I thought. We were on scene 7 already. One afternoon in ancient China, Chao, ruler of Han from 358 to 333 BC, got drunk. Oh, this sounds like Darth Hideous. And fell asleep in the palace gardens. The court crown keeper, whose sole task was to look after the ruler's head apparel, passed through the gardens and saw his master sleeping without a coat. Since it was getting cold, the crown keeper placed his own coat over the ruler and left. When Chow awoke and saw the coat upon him, he asked his attendants Who put more clothes on my body? The crown keeper, they replied. The ruler immediately called for his official coat keeper and had him punished for neglecting his duties. Uh, he also called for the crown keeper, whom he had beheaded. Oh boy. Interpretation. Do not overstep your bounds. Do what you are assigned to do to the best of your abilities and never do more. To think that by doing more you are doing better is a common blunder. It is never good to seem to be trying too hard. It is as if you were covering up some deficiency. Yeah, tryharding is it's never good luck. Fulfilling a task that has not been asked of you just makes people suspicious. If you are a crown keeper, be a crown keeper. Save your excess energy for when you are not in the court. In other words, put that shit towards your own damn devices and don't use it to be an ass keeper. Oh, my goodness. Scene 8? Are we really already at scene 8? I need a cigarette, y'all. I am. Whew. I wasn't expecting Law 24 to be super long, but I guess there's a lot to being a perfect courtier, and we gonna learn today. Okay, scene 8. Let's get into it. One day, for amusement, the Italian Renaissance painter Fra Filippo Lippi and some friends went sailing in a small boat off Ancona. They were there they were captured by two Moorish galleys, which hauled them off in chains to Barbary, the Barbary pirates, where they were sold as slaves. Unfortunate. For 18 long months, Filippo toiled with no hope of returning to Italy. On several occasions, Filippo saw the man who had brought him pass by, and one day he decided to sketch this man's portrait using burnt charcoal from the fire. Charcoal paintings. Or charcoal sketches, rather. Still in his chains, he found a white wall where he drew a full-length likeness of his owner in Moorish clothing. The owner soon heard about this, for no one had seen such skill in drawing before in these parts. It seemed like a miracle, a gift from God. The drawing so pleased the owner that he instantly gave Filippo his freedom and employed him in his court. All the big men on the Barbary coast came to see the magnificent color portraits that Fra Filippo then proceeded to do, and finally, in gratitude for the honor in this way brought upon him, Filippo's owner returned the artist safely to Italy. Why would you draw the dude who enslaved you? Like, why would that be where your mind would go? We who toil for other people have all in some way been captured by pirates and sold into slavery. That seems like a bit of a stretch on the interpretation. But like Fra Filippo, if to a lesser degree, most of us possess some gift, some talent, an ability to do something better than other people. Make your master a gift of your talents, and you will rise above other courtiers. Let him take the credit if necessary. It will only be temporary. Use him as a stepping stone, a way of displaying your talent, and eventually buying your freedom from enslavement. Okay, well, that interpretation just seems like absolute bullshit, but this story here 100% proves it. I'm 100% certain. I am changing my name to 48 cents, and I'm going to start my rap career. I'm going to break free of these slave chains on a discount. Scene 9. Alfonso the First of Aragon. Once, this sound, Aragon really, like, is that not a kingdom out of the Lord of the Rings? Once had a servant who told the king that the night before he had a dream. Alfonso had given him a gift of weapons, horses, and clothes. Alfonso, a generous, lordly man, decided it would be amusing to make this dream come true, and promptly gave the servant exactly these gifts. A little while later, the same servant announced to Alfonso that he had had yet another dream, and in this one Alfonso had given him a considerable pile of gold florins. The king smiled and said, "Don't believe in dreams from now on, they lie." So, uh, interpretation. In the treatment of the servant's first dream, Alfonso remained in control. By making a dream come true, he claimed a godlike power for himself, if in a mild and humorous way. In the second dream, however, all appearance of magic was gone. This was nothing but an ugly con game on the servant's part. Never ask for too much, then, and know when to stop. See, this was covered, like all of these examples were covered during the first section. It is the master's prerogative to give when he wants and what he wants, and to do so without prompting. Do not give him the chance to reject your requests. Better to win favors by deserving them, so that they are bestowed without your asking. Yeah, makes sense. 48 cents of power. uh, Scene 10. It's great that we already covered pretty much all the core tenets of these because I can read them and not overly explain them because it's not necessary. It's already been done. The great English landscape painter J.M.W. Turner was known for his use of color, which he, which he applied with a brilliance and a strange iridescence. The color in his paintings was so striking, in fact, that other artists never wanted his work hung next to theirs. It inevitably made everything around it seem dull. The painter Sir Thomas Lawrence once had the misfortune of seeing Turner's masterpiece, Cologne, hanging in an exhibition between between two works of his own. So he's got to be on both sides of this shit. Ah, Lawrence complained bitterly to the gallery owner, who gave him no satisfaction. After all, someone's paintings had to hang next to Turner's. But Turner heard of Lawrence's complaint, and before the exhibition opened, he toned down the brilliant golden sky in Cologne, making it as dull as the colors in Lawrence's works. A friend of Turner's who saw the painting approached the artist with a horrified look. "What have you done to your picture?" he said. "Well, poor Lawrence was so unhappy," Turner replied, "and it's only lampblack. It'll wash off after the exhibition." Aww, my man Turner was a homie. Interpretation. Many of a courtier's anxieties have to do with the master, with whom most dangers lie. Yet it is a mistake to imagine that the master is the only one to determine your fate. Your equals and subordinates play integral parts also. A court is a vast stew of resentments, fears, and powerful envy. You have to placate everyone who might someday harm you, deflecting their resentment and envy and diverting their hostility onto other people. Turner, eminent courtier, knew that his good fortune and fame depended on his fellow painters as well as on his dealers and patrons. How many of the great have been felled by envious colleagues? Better temporarily to dull your brilliance. In this case, he did so literally, putting some lampblack on his painting to dull down the colors, than to suffer the slings and arrows of envy. Oh man, that was a real homie move, and he was also preserving himself in the same regard. But that explanation he gave, like, that was key. I didn't want him to feel butthurt, so I just did it for this exhibition. I can wash it off later. Ah, scene 11. I think we're getting really close now. Winston Churchill was an amateur artist, and after World War II, his paintings became collector's items. The American publisher Henry Luce, in fact, creator of Time and Life magazines, kept one of Churchill's landscapes hanging in his private office in New York. On a tour through the United States once, Churchill visited Luce in his office, and the two men looked at the painting together. The publisher remarked, "It's a good picture, but I think it needs something in the foreground. A sheep, perhaps." Much to Luce's horror, Churchill's secretary called the publisher the next day and asked him to have the painting sent to England. Luce did so, mortified that he had perhaps offended the former prime minister. A few days later, however, the painting was shipped back, but slightly altered. A single sheep now grazed peacefully in the foreground. Ah, it made the painting better. Good job, Churchill. In stature and fame, Churchill stood head and shoulders above Luce, but Luce was certainly a man of power, so let us imagine a slight equality between them. Still, what did Churchill have to fear from an American publisher? Why bow to the criticism of a dilettante? A court In this case, the entire world of diplomats and international statesmen, and also of the journalists who court them, is a place of mutual dependence. It is unwise to insult or offend the taste of people of power, even if they are below or equal to you. If a man like Churchill can swallow the criticisms of a man like Luce, he provides himself a courtier without peer. Perhaps his correction of the painting implied a certain condescension as well, but he did it so subtly that Luce did not perceive any slight. Imitate Churchill. Put in the sheep. It is always beneficial to play the obliging courtier, even when you are not serving a master. Huh. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. That is wild. Winston Churchill. Well, we made it through the scenes, and we have now made it to the. Hopefully, this is the last section, the delicate game of courtiership. A warning. Talleyrand was the consummate courtier, especially in serving his master Napoleon. When the two men were first getting to know each other, Napoleon once said in passing, "I shall come to lunch at your house one of these days." Talleyrand had a house at Auteuil. I don't speak Thunder Monkey, so don't even try. In the suburbs of Paris. "I should be delighted, mon général," the minister replied, "and since my house is close to the another French word, Bois de Boulogne, I don't speak this nonsense, you will be able to amuse yourself with a bit of shooting in the afternoon." "I do not like shooting," said Napoleon, "but I love hunting. Are there any boars in the Bois de Boulogne?" Napoleon came from Corsica, where boar hunting was a great sport. By asking if there were boars in a Paris park, however, he showed himself still a provincial, almost a rube. Talleyrand did not laugh, however, but he could not resist a practical joke on the man who was now his master in politics, although not in blood and nobility, since Talleyrand came from an old aristocratic family. To Napoleon's question, then, he simply replied, "Very few, mon général, but I dare say you will manage to find one in a Paris park." Uh-huh. It was arranged that Napoleon would arrive at Talleyrand's house the following day at 7 a.m. and would spend the morning there. The boar hunt would take place in the afternoon. Throughout the morning the excited general talked nothing but boar hunting. Meanwhile, Talleyrand secretly had his servants go to the market, buy two enormous black pigs, and take them to the great park. After lunch the hunters and their hounds set off for the Bois de Boulogne. At a secret signal from Talleyrand, the servants loosed one of the pigs. "I see a boar," Napoleon cried joyfully, jumping onto his horse to give chase. Talleyrand stayed back. It took half an hour of galloping through the park before the boar was finally captured. At the moment of triumph, however, Napoleon was approached by one of his aides, who knew the creature could not possibly be a boar, and feared the general would be ridiculed once the story got out. Sir, he told Napoleon, you realize, of course, that this is not a boar, but a pig. Flying into a rage, Napoleon immediately set off at a gallop for Talleyrand's house. He realized along the way that he would now be the butt of many a joke, and that exploding at Talleyrand would only make him more ridiculous. It would be better to make a show of good humor. Still, he did not hide his displeasure well. Talleyrand decided to try to soothe the general's bruised ego. He told Napoleon not to go back to Paris yet. He should again go hunting in the park. There were many rabbits there, and hunting them had been a favorite pastime of Louis XVI. Talleyrand even offered to let Napoleon use a set of guns that had once belonged to Louis. With much flattery and cajolery, he once again got Napoleon to agree to a hunt. The party left for the park in the late afternoon. Along the way, Napoleon told Talleyrand, I'm not Louis XVI. I surely won't kill even one rabbit. Yet that afternoon, strangely enough, the park was teeming with rabbits. Napoleon killed at least 50 of them, and his mood changed from anger to satisfaction. At the end of his wild shooting spree, however, the same aide approached him and whispered in his ear, to tell the truth, sir, I am beginning to believe these are not wild rabbits. I suspect that rascal Talleyrand has played another joke on us. The aide was right. Talleyrand had in fact sent his service back to the market, where they had purchased dozens of rabbits and had released them in the Bois de Boulogne. Oh, oh. Evening, Devo. What's up, buddy? 357. Good to see you guys. I'm just here winding up the tail end of the longest laws of power law in the laws book. Yeah, now I know why this book is so damn thick. And it's like I got through the first 23 chapters and I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. I forgot about this one. It has been years since I've read this, and I didn't really even understand most of it the first time I did. Not as well as I do now, anyway. Napoleon immediately mounted his horse and galloped away, this time returning straight to Paris. He later threatened Talleyrand, warning him not to tell a soul what had happened. If he became the laughing stock of Paris, there would be hell to pay. It took months for Napoleon to be able to trust Talleyrand again, and he never totally forgave him his humiliation. Man, Talleyrand should have just told him flat out, outright, like, yeah, man, it's a park. What do you want? There's no hunting here. Like, I'm sure we could find somewhere to go hunt, but this is not a hunting ground. This is a park. You rube. Courtiers are like magicians. They deceptively play with appearances, only letting those around them see what they want them to see. With so much deception and manipulation afoot, it is essential to keep people from seeing your tricks and glimpsing your sleight of hand. Talleyrand was normally the grand wizard of courtiership, not to be confused with the exalted cyclops of courtiership or the grand dragon of courtiership. And but for Napoleon's aid, he probably would have gotten away completely with both pleasing his master and having a joke at the general's expense. I'd like to shoot that fucking aide, by the way, just for the record, like, and I'm sure Talleyrand probably would like to fucking shoot that aide too. That little asshole. Uh, but courtiership is a subtle art, and overlooked traps and inadvertent mistakes can ruin your best tricks. Never risk being caught in your maneuvers. Never let people see your devices. Make the magic happen in the background, people. If that happens, you instantly pass in people's perceptions from a courtier to of great manners to a loathsome rogue. Oh my. It is a delicate game you play. Apply the utmost attention to covering your tracks and never let your master unmask you. Whew. Not 3 hours, but I also didn't have to explain all the different scenes. And the cautionary tale should be just that. Like, Talleyrand ended up surviving Napoleon in the long run of the story, but that could have easily gone very, very bad for him, all because of an aide that was kind of a little dickhead. He was doing his job protecting the general, the aide, I mean. But man, if that guy hadn't been around, Talleyrand would have had a lot better day of this. So, are we all prepared to go out there and be perfect little courtiers now? To play our roles perfectly and never make any mistakes and never offend the wrong people and always know who's asked to kiss and just when and how to kiss it? Hell to the fuck ass no. No, 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 no. It's all about the complex. I mean, there's there's a whole 2 hours of just a whole bunch of shit that I'm not very good at. But that was Law 24. We made it through it. We are now officially halfway through the 48 Laws of Power. There are only 24 more left. Ah. If you miss the first hour where the rules, like honestly, the second hour of this is just like examples of these rules. But go back and watch the first hour, and it'll teach you all the different rules that were relevant to all these different examples. But I do hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. I'm sure all of you have already hit that subscribe button, but if you think there might be anybody who's might enjoy this type of content, if you want to share this out on your social media or to the places you share stuff, shut up, Maddie. That was a lot of work and I didn't play any bad music. And Law 25, Friday at noon. As we do the Friday at noon. Uh, Hold on, what are we going to do? What are we going to do Friday? Law 25, recreate yourself. Oh boy, that ought to be an interesting conversation. Maybe I might even need to pay extra special attention to this one. So it'll be a good thing that it's a nooner before I'm too intoxicated on Friday. As always, y'all, thank you for coming. I couldn't do this conversation without you guys. I mean, I could. It'd be less fun. And I'm glad that some of you really do enjoy the covering of the book, even if you're not people seeking so much power. Yeah, it's a nooner on Friday. That's when I will be doing the 25th law. Uh, Bijou, welcome back. And oh yeah, I sometimes pop up randomly on Rumble, and I do some kind of weird content. So if you don't follow me on Rumble, then you don't know what I'm gonna do there next. Frankly, I don't know what I'm gonna do there next. Thank you, Heidi. You kicking this book's booty, Darth Hideous. I'm planning on going back to hear what I missed. Like I said, you only missed about an hour. The most important hour was the first hour of this one. Like the stories are fun and fascinating, but if you don't have that first section, then a lot of why the stories were chosen and relevant is not going to hit as well. But hopefully, after you go back and see the rules of courtiership, you will understand why all these different examples were such relevant examples. Anywho, y'all, without further ado, I have kept you in class long enough. We've been here for 2 friggin' hours. I will see all of you who can make it on Friday. If not, I'll catch you in the replay crew. For those of you out there in the audience watching in the replay crew land, let me just tell you this. I appreciate everyone's comments in the comment section below the video. Any questions, any concerns, any thoughts, anything you want to put in there, I'm more than happy to address them as best I can, unless they are long, contrived diatribes by Heidi that leave me struggling with more questions than I have answers. I'm just kidding, Heidi. I love your messages, but they don't usually have many questions in them. They usually just have lots of stories, and those are amazing stories. I appreciate them. But yeah, leave anything you want to leave in the comment section for Darth Hideous. The algorithm appreciates it. I appreciate it. And I will see you all on Friday at noon. If not, back here on Monday for Law 26 at 8 p.m. Until then, peace. Hideous out.